Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace. It's been a long time since I've done one of these, but I want to do more of them because there are so many fantastic people making great content about collectibles and comics and what have you. So this is going to be a comic book content creator conversation. Like I said, we haven't done one of these in a while. So it's my pleasure to welcome a couple of the gentlemen from Comics and Crypto. It's a website. It's a YouTube channel. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and talk a little bit about the channel. So let me throw it over to you, Spencer.
Awesome. Yeah, so my name is Spencer Vogel. I'm one of the co-hosts of Comics and Crypto, joined by Sean O'Hare, one of my other co-hosts. And then our third co-host is Kevin Lee Loader, who is not able to join us today. But yeah, we've been running the channel for 3 years now. Actually, I think we just had our third anniversary. We might have missed it. I'm now just realizing. But yeah, 3 years now. But yeah, the channel basically is all focused on the collectible space. We definitely look at things more from the investment side. But also at the same time, we're huge collectors, and you can see by all the stuff behind us on our walls that we just love to collect. But yeah, we cover both the physical and the digital side of collecting, hence comics and crypto. We definitely have a big focus on comics, but we talk about pretty much everything from comics to VHS to video games to Funko. You name it on the physical side of things, and then on the digital side, licensed digital collectibles. So we're very much focused more on what the big collectible brands like Marvel and Disney and DC and Star Wars, these really big nostalgic brands, what they're releasing in the NFT space. And yeah, we're just really excited about kind of really the collecting space as a whole, and where the two really like intersect, and that's kind of where our channel and all of our content falls, is kind of right in the middle of those two worlds.
Yeah, it's so interesting because you guys are doing, focusing on the digital collectibles, a space where there's not a lot of focus. So let me ask you, Sean, comics goes back, and we're getting close to a century here. Obviously, it wasn't really a collectible for the first, let's say, half of their existence, maybe a little longer, like a disposable sort of form of entertainment, which is why those early Golden Age and even Silver Age books are so expensive now because they just weren't saved. But certainly with the advent of the direct market in the 70s, what have you, that sort of started this idea of collecting the physical and hanging on to it, and we've seen that sort of explode. But much newer is this idea of collecting things digitally. So can you talk, Sean, a little bit about deciding to cover that and kind of what you've learned as you guys have really kind of been one of the few channels that focus on that space?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of backstory. Spencer and I actually met backpacking in Europe, and that was around 2017. We met at a hostel, became really good friends. We stayed in touch. Then around 2018, 2019, he was telling me about, hey, do you know much about the crypto space? Do you know much about NFTs? And at the time, I was investing heavily in comic books. I've always been a big collector in comic books and sports cards, but it wasn't until around 2016, 15 that I started investing in comic books, especially graded comic books. And Spencer didn't really know much about the comics, investing in the comic space. I didn't know much about investing in NFTs or crypto. And we were kind of teaching each other. We were teaching about each other's spaces. And 6 months later, we found VV Digital Collectibles, which is a platform that sells licensed digital collectibles from some of the biggest brands in the world, including Disney and Marvel and DC. And that's when our head started to turn, because licensed collectibles is a really big deal, and especially from those brands who are very particular about who they work with. So we got involved with them, and then they started dropping Marvel digital collectibles. The first digital collectible that they released was a Spider-Man collectible, and then about a month later, they started releasing comic books. And the first one that they released was Marvel Comics #1. And I love that you brought that up, that comics weren't really collectible, especially in the golden era. And Marvel Comics 1 is a perfect example, because I believe there are about 1 million produced. There's 1 million copies of that comic produced. And there's less than 100 known today that exist.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And very fitting, the first comic that was released by Marvel as an NFT was Marvel Comics #1. And people went nuts over it. They started realizing the value of these physical comic books, and we're really excited to have a chance to own this comic in digital format, licensed by Marvel. And it's interesting because we've had a lot of debates about, are the comics considered reprints on VV? For us, we look at it as a chance to invest in the original IP. So for a lot of people who don't have an opportunity to own Marvel Comics 1 in the physical space, because I mean, right now you're looking at least probably $100,000 to get involved, the lowest grade, but you can have a chance to buy one in NFT format right now for around $20. which is a really at the highest during the bull run. It was around 1,000, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But it's really exciting. It's really exciting to have a chance to own these comics and be a part of this history. And it's very possible one day Marvel Comics 1 can no longer exist. It's crazy to say that, but there's less than 100 known today. And for anything happens to them, you still have a chance to own this comic in digital format, which is really interesting. And the accessibility that people have to buy these worldwide is also a game changer. You can buy, sell, trade these instantly worldwide, which for a lot of physical collectors, as you know, shipping is a huge issue. I actually just personally went through a huge ordeal. I sold a Tales of Suspense 52, which is the first appearance of Black Widow, and it was signed by Stan Lee and Larry Lieber. And my first time using FedEx, because I always use USPS, and I shipped it out, and they lost the comic. Oh. My first time using FedEx. They lost the comic, and it was gone for 4 weeks until it magically reappeared at another facility close to where I shipped it out. And eventually, the buyer ended up getting it eventually after a month. But that was terrifying. I totally was convinced it was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the kind of scary thing. And again, we are not discouraging the physical space. We are incredibly excited about it.
Believe me, we have a lot of physical stuff.
We are not creating fun on the digital space. We are just presenting the things that are happening right now, the issues that physical collectibles have. And digital creates a lot of opportunity for people who never normally had a chance to even buy a comic book. I have friends in different parts of the world where comics are not easily accessible, and they're able to buy them and enjoy them, even as collectors, which is really special.
Yeah. And VV's been doing something really cool recently. They launched VV Comics maybe 6 months ago at this point. But what they've been doing is every time a Marvel comic is released in the physical comic book stores, same day they're releasing digital versions of that same comic as well. So people who live in a place that don't have comic book stores, easily accessible to them, people are able to still get these releases on the same day and still have that same experience that people do have access to that are having, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, when I first started getting back into it, well, I never was really gone, but when I started getting back into it heavily, like right around 2010, and then started, covering and doing the podcast and having press and getting sent digital copies by the companies as press previews so that I'd have a chance to read it and then review it. It was a little bit of a change, right? Like I had been reading comics at that point for, almost 40 years, like 30, 35 years or so. And I was like, man, I just don't like this. I like having the physical book or whatever. Now I can't imagine not. I mean, my iPad, I can have a couple hundred books on there. I can't carry a couple hundred books around.
Exactly.
Anyway, and then the other thing is, like, I am out of space. I am so out of space. I 2 or 3 weeks ago, I rearranged my studio, and I had to move, and it's my own dumbass fault for not measuring everything first. I moved 60 drawer boxes. I ended up moving them 30 times, or not 30 times, 3 times. 60 drawer boxes 3 times, long boxes, because I didn't measure first, and I kept having to, oh, that's not going to work that way, move it again. So, yeah, I know 50, 60 pounds. So, yeah, it was a lot of work. But I did that, so I now can add about 18 more drawer boxes to the 60 I have on one wall. And then my desk actually is made out of another, another 12 drawer boxes with just a big, like, plate of glass over the top of it.
Nice.
So I've got 68 now, and I'm going to add another 18, but I know I'm going to fill that up too. Like, so it's this idea of just running out of space. But to go back to what you were saying, Spencer, about VB offering these collectibles same day. So it's not the newest thing, right? Everybody, in terms of, okay, day and date. They've I think DC started doing it with the New 52 in 2011. But this idea of having the digital book and being able to read it, on Comixology or what have you. But here's the difference, everybody, right? Like, you may not realize this, but if you're reading books on Comixology and some of the other ones that have come out, Comixology got absorbed by Amazon or whatever, some of the others, you actually don't own that book. Like, you technically are leasing it if you.
Yeah, it's a license to read it, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they have no obligation to, if they go away, like if Amazon tomorrow is like, okay, no more Comixology, we're not going to carry digital comics anymore. You lose everything you've paid for, and you have no recourse. Like, you paid for all that. You're paying, for the right to read it on their platform. But if that platform stops existing, they owe you nothing. They owe you nothing, yeah. And it's scary. I think people don't realize that. So when we talk about these other digital collectibles, it's the difference, right? Like you own that digital collectible and it is yours. Yes, it's not a physical product, but you own that. You can put it on a a thumb drive, or you can store it locally on your computer, or download it to a tablet, whatever you want to do, and you own it. You own it. So I want to stress that. And also,
yeah, I mean, you can also sell it afterwards too. It's once you read it, and you've dumped your whatever, for whatever reason, you're no longer want to have it in your collection, or you just want to free up space to be able to buy other things. You can go sell that, and maybe you sell it for $5, but you spent $7 on it, and you lose a little bit of money on it, but at least you're getting something back from it.
Yeah, exactly. Which is one of the things that I hear people say about the digital, where they say, well, then there's no resale value or whatever. That's changing, and there are some publishers that are realizing this as well, and maybe you can speak to this, Spencer. Distillery is one that's really kind of trying to cater to this market, because there are people, like you said, that don't have a comic shop close, or they're like me and they're out of space. This is offering them something a little different, a little more value, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, we're I think just in general just very excited for what the technology can bring. I think just for people just to like we were talking about the accessibility, and yeah, I don't know. I'm just so excited about what this is going to do for collecting. Like I think that really is just changing the way that people are going to think about collecting in general. And one of the things that we'll get into probably a little bit later is like RWA platforms, so like real world asset platforms. And maybe Sean, maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because that's one of the things that
yeah. I definitely want to bring that up. But something I want to say really really quickly, and I hope a lot of people who are kind of new to this, I want them to understand too. Over the past 2 to 3 years, we've met hundreds and hundreds of people that are new to collecting, and it all started in the digital space, and now they're going into comic shops, they're going to Comic-Con. They're buying physical collectibles. So it's not just a one-way ticket here. The people are being introduced in different ways to collect, and they're falling in love with collecting and investing in collectibles. So it's really exciting to see that, for sure, because I think the misconception is right now people are worried that digital collectibles are going to destroy physical collectibles. We think the opposite. We actually think that these two worlds are bridging together, and that there's an opportunity for both to succeed. And there's enough space for both to win. I mean, we look at the digital and physical collectible space under one market cap, and we do believe that it's only going to increase over time. It's really exciting.
Yeah,
but as far as
that's 100%. Just real quick, I want to add to that, because that was the doom and gloom that the retailers said when digital comics first came out. Oh, it's going to ruin us. It's going to ruin us. In fact, it goes the other way. Just like you were saying, Sean, it's like I read something digitally, or somebody finds something digitally and they love it. They want to have it on their shelf. They read it digitally. They fall in love with it, but maybe they read it digitally in the singles, but then the collected edition comes out. I want that. I want to be able to display it on a shelf. I want to be able to talk about it. I want to be able to show my friends when they come over. So yeah, you don't have to go one way or the other, everybody. You can mix and match, whatever works best for you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really cool, I guess, like phygital collectibles. At least that's the term that we like to call, kind of mix between physical and digital, where it goes either way. Either a physical product is released, and then from that physical product, you can claim a digital version of it, or the other way around, you buy a digital product and claim it. So like I don't know if you can see it in my screen, but up above me, I have like these Hot Wheels, for example, that were released on the Wax blockchain. At this point, probably almost 3 years ago. But basically, you bought these digital cars, basically digital collectible cars, and then if you got the certain rarity, you basically could use that to claim the physical version. And then now I have both the physical and the digital version of that same car. And like Funko has been doing the same thing as well for the last probably better part of 3 years. Like the first ever release they did was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles release, and like the Grail from that like sells on eBay for like I think the last I saw like $800 or something like that for that Funko. And the digital sells for maybe $50 or something like that. Like there's like a huge, kind of just like difference in value, just because I think people haven't really caught on and realized, what they're dealing with yet on the digital side. But but you're seeing a lot of collectors kind of engage with both sides through these different programs, which has been really cool.
Yeah, well, I think especially for younger people that are used to video games, right? Like collectible skins and that sort of thing, they're a little more comfortable with it, We see it in collectible card games that have gone over to the digital side as well, like Marvel Snap. They constantly have variants and what have you. So I think people are a little more familiar. But let's throw it back to you, Sean. You're going to tell us about RWAs.
Yeah, so there's some great platforms out there right now that are doing this. So Courtyard and Fanable is a company that we've been involved with. They're currently a sponsor of the podcast. Big shout out to Fanable. And what Fanable does, they take your graded collectibles. So here's an example. Here's my Back to the Future VHS tape, and it's graded by Rewind. Big shout out to Rewind. And you can send it into the company, which they actually have a Brinks vault where they'll store your collectible and tokenize it and turn it into a 3D digital asset, which is on their platform. And you can sell that asset or trade it. You have full ownership of it, but it's also secured for free in a Brinks vault in a temperature insured environment. So it's really amazing. I mean, to see that you can carry all your physical collectibles in your pocket. I mean, yeah, you don't have them up on your wall, but you can still sell or trade them on the platform. And what's really amazing too is if you submit this collectible, you actually get a percentage of that sale, of that recurring sale every time it's sold until they cash it out and it's delivered to them directly. But this is the kind of technology that we're excited about because this is where we feel like people will understand the importance of NFT technology, what it can do for the physical space. Because right now you see that with I know PSA has a PSA vault. You buy off Golden Auctions, for example, you can have the collectible shipped directly to the PSA vault, and that's great. But the only problem is you can only either cash it out and have it sent back to you, or you can sell it back on Golden again. You can't sell it to a private party. So that's the difference, the biggest difference between what Fanable can offer.
Yeah, I mean, you could literally be at a comic book show and, pull out your Fanable app and talk to some person and be like, hey, I have this, giant X-Men #1 comic on Fanable. If you give me $500 cash or, whatever it's worth, literally in person, they give you the cash and you send it right to their phone. And then it's part of their collection now.
Just transfer it.
You just transfer it. And yeah, there's so many other possibilities, using it's DeFi, which is decentralized finance. There's a lot of really cool things you can do, with smart contracts that basically take out the middleman and, so you don't have to use a bank or anything like that for doing things like on-chain loans. So for example, if you have a pretty valuable comic book, maybe a comic book that's worth $100,000 or something like that, you could tokenize it on Fanable, and then you could then basically create a loan for that, put it up for a loan, and if somebody agrees to that loan, they take your comic book as collateral, you get 50 grand or whatever it is, you can then go trade that, turn it into $200,000, and then go, get your collateral back. But it just creates a lot of opportunities for people to leverage their assets in ways that, it would be a lot more difficult. You'd have to go to a bank and find somebody to underwrite the loan and do all this kind of stuff, but it can be done without a middleman, directly on chain, directly peer-to-peer, which is, I think, just a pretty crazy innovation across all industries. But I think for collectibles especially, could have some pretty cool impact and could create some, I think, good liquidity for the market. So yeah, just really excited about that. And also I think for data as well, data collection, it makes things really, really easy for being able to publicly see what sales are. There's so many benefits for it. So yeah, we're excited because I think it'll just, a lot of physical collectors, it'll start to click for them once they kind of see what the options are available for them with platforms like this.
Yeah, so if somebody's interested in this, I know the barrier entry and people just don't understand it and that kind of thing. So that's kind of where you guys come in, specifically with your YouTube channel, podcast, and that sort of thing. Give us an idea of a typical episode. Is it instructional? Do you guys have guests? Is it a mix of the two? If I'm completely new to the digital space, do you have certain episodes I should go and listen to try to get my foot in the door? What do you recommend?
Yeah, we have a number of different stuff. I mean, we do a lot of interviews. So, we've interviewed a lot of different comic book creators in the space that have been doing stuff digitally. We've gotten to interview Todd McFarlane, which is really, really awesome. Rob Pryor is one of our favorite guys to have on the show. But yes, we do a number of interviews. We talk to a lot of founders of digital collectibles companies and kind of have them talk to us about different updates that are going on with their platforms. What else do we do, Sean?
We also interview. We've had CGC Comics on our channel and Golden Auctions. We also had David Mickey Evans, who's the director of The Sandlot. He came on our channel to talk about a collectible that was a prop from the movie that he sold on Golden Auctions, and it's been great to get to know him. And yeah, so our tagline is your source for everything collectible. And we really kind of keep true to that because we
Yeah.
explore new opportunities, the things that are coming out as well. We like to talk about it and research. But most importantly, we like to educate. That's really why we started our podcast, because we wanted to educate people, especially in the digital collectible side. When Marvel was first released, a lot of the community didn't really know much about comics at the time or how to invest in them. So we were helping kind of great guidelines and just a foundation that we know, and they take that information and learn for themselves. Because everything that they do is it's on your own. You got to make the best decision for your collection. So it's been really fun talking to a lot of people, helping educate and seeing their journey along the way.
Yeah, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, we're just trying to showcase what cool things that we see going on in the market, and just
Yeah.
allowing our audience to get in on that. Yeah, in addition to like the YouTube channel and our social media, we also have a newsletter as well called the Collectors Corner that we release bi-weekly, which is basically just an update on kind of what's going on in the market, both physical and digital. We talk about recent notable sales, upcoming auctions. We do giveaways every week. We also do like blog posts. Either one of us writes a blog, or feature one of our community members as a guest writer on the blog. Feature our video content. So yeah, we really love our newsletter, and it's a really good way to kind of get a really kind of good summary of what's happened in the last couple of weeks in the collectible space. So we really enjoy putting it together. So yeah, definitely check that out as well. comicsandcrypto.io/newsletter.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes, everybody, to the website where you can go and check out the newsletter, sign up for the newsletter, and that sort of thing. And there'll be a link to the YouTube channel as well to go and check out some of these episodes. So I think NFTs hit, they've been around for a long time, but they really hit the collectibles market, say, like the last 5 years, maybe a little more recently than that. But there was a lot of buzz about it, and I think everybody kind of jumped in, and the value shot up, and then things sort of stabilized. People sort of, realized what they were and they weren't. But I think there's still a lot of confusion. So do you guys have like a shorthand, or have you come up with a way, people ask that question, I still don't understand what an NFT is. Do you have a real simple way to explain it for anyone in our audience that still doesn't have a handle on what they are?
Yeah. One of the things I like to compare is Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go is one of the more popular platforms or apps to come out in the past 5 to 10 years. Did it come out 10 years ago? Somewhere around there. Within the last 10 years, and it's been unbelievably popular. But it's very similar to Comixology. You don't really have true ownership over your Pokemon. Now imagine the opportunity where you can own a Pokemon, your character. You can grow that character, become stronger, more powerful, and therefore probably worth a lot more than a lot of other Pokemon characters. So you could possibly sell that individual item. That's what NFT technology can do. You have a chance to actually have true ownership of your assets in the digital space, which is a really, really big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically because you have your own wallet that you have full control over. You don't have any kind of a middleman that is giving you permission to do things. You have full control over everything. And so when you own an asset, you really do have true ownership of it. Like, you can do whatever you want with it, but also that comes with the risks of, if you lose the seed phrase for your wallet, your NFTs are gone. So it can be kind of scary. So there are, so VB, for example, Web3 is kind of, the whole blockchain space as a whole. The VB platform specifically is more what we call like Web 2.5. So it sits kind of in the middle, where technically all of the assets are NFTs themselves. So they've been minted on the blockchain. They exist as assets on the blockchain. The metadata is all there. However, you actually don't have ownership of it in the sense that you have it in your own personal wallet. They basically do the custody for you. So it's just a simple username, password, email login, two-factor authentication in your inbox. So basically that's how it's currently set up. And I personally, I've been in the crypto space since like 2017. And so I feel very, very comfortable managing and custodying my own assets. I feel like I know what I'm doing, but a lot of new people coming into the space, it's scary. It's a lot of responsibility, and
it's still
and
scary for me. I mean, we've been involved in the space for 3 or 4 years, and you just click a link sometimes, and it just your assets are gone, and
exactly.
that's terrifying. That's why I personally feel comfortable with my assets on an app like VB, because you can't take them off. It's in a controlled environment. So but you still can sell on the app, within the app.
Yeah. Yeah, and at some point it might get to the point, hopefully, where you do actually have true ownership, where you have the opportunity to pull your assets off the platform and put them in your own cold storage wallet or whatever. But yeah, I think right now, I think just based on kind of uncertainty around regulations and kind of just making sure that like a big part of it is like licensors have to get their cut on all the transaction fees and all the secondary trades. So being able to figure out a solution where they're still able to get that even when people are moving their assets off the platform is another challenge. So yeah, and there's still a couple hurdles for them to get there, but at least for the time being, and especially for new users coming into the space, I think it's a really good thing because it's easier. It's what they're used to in terms of a login, and you have a very similar experience of owning it without actually having to carry the responsibility. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think intrigues people, right? Like if you want to think about this as an investment, kind of this evergreen investment. So yeah, you mentioned it a few times, both of you did actually. So if you own an asset and then you sell it, and then the person you sell it to sells it, like, so how do you ensure you always get a cut? Like, is that always a thing? Like if you had partial ownership of it, or if you owned it at one point, you'll always get a percentage, or do you have to be the original owner? Like, how does that work?
So that example is specifically for RWA platforms like Fandible and Courtyard. In a scenario like DV or like licensed digital collectibles, the only person getting a cut of that is the licensor,
Right,
and
gotcha.
basically in the marketplace, you don't get a cut of it for owning it. But in the situation with Fandible, basically if you are the person who sends your physical collectible into their vault and they digitize it, because you're the first person who basically put it onto the platform, they're incentivizing that by giving you, and I don't think Fandible has released what their percentage is going to be. Their platform is actually going to be launching next month. But like, for example, Courtyard, they give you a 1%, basically of I think the 4% marketplace fee that they have. 1% of that goes to the person who originally minted that item in perpetuity until that item is taken off the platform.
Yeah, again, like that's something that's really fantastic, and I know there are a lot of concerns if you're a creator these days, especially with AI and artists and what have you, and people being kind of uncomfortable with digital, especially when it first hit. But I think people are some of the misconceptions are falling by the wayside now. But that idea of, okay, I'm an artist and I've drawn something, either physically or digitally. The fact that if it's sold and resold, because that's one of the things that sucks, right? Like people sold their original art or they never got their original art back. And we see these covers going for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, because they're iconic. And meanwhile, these poor comic book artists are, struggling to, pay their medical bills as they get older and that sort of thing, or, put their kids through college. It's great that if they do something like this, they're always going to get a percentage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also just like their work is also protected. You know what I mean? It's like you have this immutable record on the blockchain and a timestamp of when this thing was created and minted. So if somebody wants to try to steal your work, you literally have proof right there that, hey, look, I was the one who minted this first. This is my art. And nobody can deny it.
Yeah, it's really exciting too. We had Todd McFarlane on for an interview. He was advertising it was a one of one NFT of the original Spawn cover. So
Spawn number one.
I believe since Spawn number one, and I believe since 1992, Todd has never sold any of his artwork. He's very particular about his artwork now.
Yeah. No Spawn artwork is out there on the market.
No Spawn artwork is out in the market. And when he came on our podcast, he talked about how this is your only chance to own this thing. It's either the physical that, after I pass, my kids want to sell it, sure. But until then, the only chance you're going to have to own an original cover of Spawn is as the most one-on-one NFT. And it was really fun afterwards. They ended up selling for around $17,000, and we got an email from the buyer. And he said, we watched your guys' interview with Todd, and I was so inspired, I had to buy it. And it was my first NFT I ever bought. Like, wow. Congratulations, man. I
think that's a pretty good deal. The only one of one Spawn number one cover.
It was a steal in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we estimate the Physicl would sell. I mean, especially since Todd doesn't sell his art. If that ever did sell, I can only imagine what it would sell for.
Yeah.
So
$10 million or something ridiculous like that.
I mean, I would think at least $1 million plus, even in this market right now. But who knows? Those one-on-ones are difficult to project.
We've had some covers go for what, like $2-3 million, I would think
Yeah.
based on who Spawn is, who Todd is, yeah, I could see it going
Yeah, I think it
for
was like the Secret Wars 8, right? Like that cover. I think that
yeah,
sold for like it was
It,
like two or
it,
three
it
million,
wasn't
right?
it wasn't the cover. It was actually the artwork in the comic of when it was the suit was introduced.
Right. It
Um,
was the
but,
first
but
appearance of the suit. Yeah.
but Wolverine #1 just sold for $600,000 on Heritage. That was the
Mhm.
original. Yeah, it was a one of one cover art.
yeah.
So,
I could
but
see
yeah,
yeah, I could see Spawn one going for like 8 to 10, easy.
Yeah. And
wow,
people are such big Todd fans. So
yeah,
yeah.
oh
And
yeah, he's awesome.
yeah, and I think as time goes by and people get more comfortable with the idea of digital collectibles, you have more people coming into the space, so your demand goes up because you have more buyers, and that's a
Mhm.
one of one. Yeah, that guy got a good deal, sure.
Yeah,
Not,
he did. We thought
Yeah.
that too.
not that I could have afforded to outbid
Yeah,
him, but
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. We got outbid. We tried to go for it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We figured we weren't going to get it.
But
Yeah.
yeah, given the circumstances, I was very, very happy with the end result. That was so
Yeah.
flattering to get that email, and I'm super happy for him. That was incredible.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. On that interview, Todd actually had he made a really, really cool point. Basically talking about how I guess people's perceptions of NFTs and how some people have like a really, really negative reaction to it, and it's like they're like really like aggressive and like they'll attack you about it, and it's like his analogy was like when you go to the grocery store and you're walking down the aisle, and let's say you don't like Brussels sprouts. When you look at on the aisle and you see Brussels sprouts, you don't go yelling at the Brussels sprouts and talking about how much you hate Brussels sprouts.
Call
You
the
just go,
manager
oh,
over.
you call the
How you
manager. No,
selling this here?
no, you just walk by and you go, I don't like Brussels sprouts, and you walk by and you grab your broccoli instead. Like it's it just doesn't have to be this big like contentious thing. It's just I don't get for whatever reason people are so up in arms about like crypto and Web3 and NFTs and I don't know. It's just a new technology. It's a new way of enjoying something, enjoying an IP, and yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think part of it, is originally like the kind of the carbon footprint, which I get, right? But there's other things that are worse that people aren't railing against. To use that analogy,
yeah,
it's not okay. I don't like Brussels sprouts, then I don't have to eat them. But I'm also not standing next to the Brussels sprouts yelling at everybody that comes and gets Brussels. Like live and let
exactly.
live,
Yeah,
man. Live and let live. If it's
yeah,
not your
yeah,
thing, then just ignore it. It
Yeah,
doesn't affect your life. Like you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
exactly.
Taylor Swift, probably the most popular entertainer in the world. And she seems to do a lot of great charity things. And I'm not a fan of her music, but she seems like a genius business person to me, or whatever. She's
yeah,
got a huge carbon footprint, flying her jet around, whatever, because she needs to get to places and whatever. I don't hate on her for that. That's just the reality of the world that we live in.
right.
It's like I get it. Is it the best thing in the world? No, but she can afford it, and she does a lot of good. So you kind of got to weigh the good with the bad, and
Yeah,
yeah, just a little live and let live. I think will go a long way. So,
yeah,
well, it's been great learning about this from you guys. I think you have a fantastic platform. I think you guys are spreading a lot of positivity, and one of the things we met at Comic-Con this last year, that one of the reasons I really wanted to have you guys on was because I think there are so many misconceptions and lack of understanding and just lack of knowledge. So I love what you
yeah.
said, Sean, about really wanting to educate. So I encourage everybody to go and check out the channel. Again, links in the show notes to go and see some of these guys' interviews and sign up for their newsletter or what have you. And if it's not for you, then you don't have to go back, but at least give it a try. So thanks for the time. I'm going to throw it over to each of you. If there's anything else that you want our audience to know, we'll start with you, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, like Spencer mentioned, definitely sign up for our newsletter at compassencrypto.io/newsletter. You get up-to-date information on sales in both the digital and physical space. We have awesome blogs that help educate about the digital space and just the collection space in general. Yeah, that's probably something we're really excited about right now, and some other things that we're developing that we're definitely going to be mentioned. You can follow us on our Twitter and Instagram at Comics and Crypto.
How about you, Spencer?
Yeah, I think just to close things out, just want to thank you for having us on. This has been an amazing
100%.
conversation, and I'm really happy that we were able to connect at Comic-Con. And yeah, just really excited about the space in general and kind of where things are going to develop. And if you're interested in following along that journey and seeing where things go, then give us a follow and kind of join us on that.
Yeah, and again, everybody, it's a great way, like Spencer mentioned earlier, to get your foot in the door of collectibles, right? Like maybe you don't have the space, or you're worried about the shipping, or you're just not sure, maybe comics are for me, maybe not, I don't know. Try them out digitally. DC's got their Absolute line coming out soon with the All In initiative. It'd be a great time to jump on. You don't need to know anything that came before. Maybe you want to start out digitally. Maybe you go physical. Maybe you stay digitally. Who knows? But I think Comics and Crypto and what Sean and Spencer are doing on there has a lot of value. So again, link in the show notes, everybody. Go check them out. Check out their content. See what they're doing. And I think you won't be disappointed. I think you really enjoy it. So, hey, thanks for taking the time, gentlemen. It's been great chatting.
Likewise. Thanks so much for having us.
And to everybody out there in the audience, whether you're checking us out on YouTube or listening to the audio-only feed, we appreciate you joining us as always, and we will talk to you next time.